Welcome to the Working Money Podcast, the show where we talk about the best ways for you to use your money. We have business owners and entrepreneurs as guests on our show. We ask them about the startups, their ups and downs of having a business, and the ultimate rewards. We also ask about their views, perspectives, advice for the new entrepreneur starting out. And now your host, Michelle Long, and
co-host Willie Morales. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the JAR system, which is pretty much coming up with a savings plan. Michelle, do you have a savings plan?
I do, but it's not as organized and structured. I have to work on it.
I got my start on a savings plan because, as you know, I was put in a hole by some family members. So I was forced to come up with a savings plan. And I bought this book called Secret of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And in it, he talks about having the JAR system. Well, I took it one step further, where I opened up 4 different accounts with direct deposit from my job. I was able to put percentages of money in those accounts, and I was able to pay down my bill. I'm down from $50,000 in 2011 down to less than maybe $2,800, and that should be done by the end of the year. And that's by setting a percentage of my paycheck. And the most important part, Michelle, is you got to know what your fixed expenses are, which is your rent or mortgage, car insurance. Once you know those things, then you could figure out a percentage of what you could put away. And believe it or not, you won't miss that money if you automate it.
What was the percentage that you put in each? How did you break it down?
Once I knew what my bills were with each credit card, I think I have 4 credit cards. So I had some cash that I was able to pay off $15,000 in one shot. So now I was left with, $35,000? At the time, I was able to live off of 70% of my income. So 28% of it went towards paying down the credit card. So in other words, out of my paycheck every 2 weeks, 28% went towards paying that. I have 1% in a savings account and 1% in an emergency account. So basically, I had 2 bank accounts.
So the 70%, how did you break down the rent, utilities, transportation? Obviously, if you're commuting to and from work. So how did you break those down?
So let's say, for example, I make $1,000 a month. 5%, which is $50, went to separate accounts. That'll be for my emergency savings, and then regular savings. 28%, which is $280 per pay period, went towards paying my credit cards. Now, at the time, my credit cards were maybe like a couple of $100 total in the 2 credit cards. So I split it. So one credit card got the minimum payment, and the other credit card got, let's say, $100.
One thing that I'm kind of thinking, and this is how I structured mine. I didn't do it exactly in that method,
right?
But because I was also had credit cards here and there, and you get to that point that you try to appease family members, so you kind of go out of your way and buy things and all of that. So I was racking up bills left and right. But
I didn't have that problem because I had 3 sisters that for some reason or another thought I was their bank. So you know how that goes.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say no to a family member, especially if you're close to them. With me, it was more like my mom, my aunt, and so forth. But actually, when I had that issue that I started getting credit cards and and it started to tally up on me, I did 2 things. One, I had to basically consolidate everything into one account. So I had to call up a company and basically
I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I had to ask them to basically go and call up the card companies and work something out so that I can only pay one monthly. And the other thing that I also did was I had a system where if I had a small balance and I had a big balance, I try to pay off the small balance first, knock it out. And then
that's what I did.
And then the bigger one, I just paid them X amount of dollars so that I would be able to concentrate on the smaller ones and get them out of the way.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And then once you knock them out, then you can go into the bigger ones and make bigger payments.
Right, and that's what I did. I also did some balance transfers when the payments or the credit card, the 0% interest expired after usually a year. And I was able to do some balance transfers. So that helped. I also got to save some money doing that. And I think the biggest thing that people say that they need all $1,000, you don't. If you figure out your expenses and to me, that's the easiest part because you see what you get every month. And then on top of that, you have your rent or mortgage, your light bill, cable, travel, expenses. It's easily done. There's no excuse not to even start at 97% as your main and then 111. In other words, have 1% in each account. And before you know it, you got a couple of $100.
Sometimes the other thing too is that you have to trick yourself. And what I mean by that is you have to trick yourself into believing that you have to pay another bill so that you can save up and put it on the side. Right. And the reason being is that you want to have some type of cushion money. If in case something should happen, you can still have that money there and then pay out the rest of the bills. And
exactly, and that's why you got to have a savings, an emergency savings, just in case. And it's funny, but going back to what you're saying about your mother and your aunt, once I got into this debt, I told my 3 sisters that the bank is closed. Because not only this debt affects me, it affects you 3 also. They all say, oh yeah, it does. And that's what bothered me. I'm like, wow. So I see how this relationship was working, not to make this into a personal story. But I mean, give it that break.
My story is a little bit different where it wasn't that they were trying to use me in that sense. It's more, I'm more of a giving person. So if someone comes up to me and says, someone in the family says to me, hey, I like this, or I wish I had it, I'll go and I'll purchase it. At that time,
even if you were in debt, though? Or
no. At that moment, I was not in debt. I was in good credit. Everything was running smoothly and going right.
Right.
Obviously, it takes a toll on you. It does catch up to you.
It does, yeah.
And I had to start, tighten the belt.
Oh, tighten the belt, yeah.
Yeah, you have to tighten the belt and kind of get into the groove of, okay, you know what? I can't spend, $200. I'm going to have to spend $50, like that.
No, and yeah, you're right, because I was doing that. I was penny pinching a lot. And it worked because I was eating more at home, especially breakfast and sometimes dinner.
Because you're contemplating, do I really need it?
Exactly. And do you need to buy that dress shirt when you got like 5 of them or 10 of them? And
that's the thing. I don't spend expensive. I wouldn't say I'm frugal either. I'm in between. I like to buy things on a sale.
Listen, women. This should be good. Go ahead.
Yes, but this is the thing. If I see a handbag or I see a shoe, obviously I like to collect both. If I'm going to be purchasing a handbag or shoes, I am not going to spend $1,000. I'm not knocking anybody that has the money to buy it. If you have it, you have it. And, if you're living very well, then, cool. More power to you.
Yeah.
But I don't live in that, in that lavish lifestyle. So I'm very conscious of what I purchase. So if I see a bag, and let's say it's a name brand bag, and it's, originally $1,000, you be damn sure that I'm going to go to, I'm going to be stalking the crap out of the store to see if it's on sale and see how much of a great deal I can get and come back walking out of it, with maybe $200, $300 tops that I would pay for a handbag.
Well, I mean, if people waited for sales, I get it. My idol, Jim Rohn, ROHN, he talked about the plan. That's how we learned. But he did it, which was Chief Harv Ecker's version is basically like 55% for your living expenses, which is rent, your bills.
There was an article about a couple that had 3 kids, and they were doing the same method. They were basically taking jars.
Like a percentage, yeah.
Yeah, they had jars.
Right, because that's Team Hard Record was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
5% for charity, 10% for education.
And that's exactly what they did. What they did was they taught their kids to have the jar system, and basically they broke it up where they got an allowance.
Right.
They were doing the chores. They had an allowance for the chores that they did. And then once they had that, they had to put something in savings, put something into charity, kind of do a donation so that they can give it out to charity. And they were putting something down for their education. So they had, towards that. And then they had money left over. They can spend it on whatever they want.
Or invest it, yeah. And that's the key, people. Like I said, get that book, Secret of the Millionaire Mind, because he kind of breaks it down. Or you could just Google it on automation. This guy, what's his name? You ever heard of this guy named David Bach, the Automatic Millionaire? You ever heard?
No.
That's another book.
No, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, so he does the same thing. Everything is all automatic.
And now that you're talking about that, did you have already on the side 401k, like when you were putting money down, did you have like a jar for that at that time?
2011. I don't remember. I think I did, but it was it came out of my paycheck automatically because I set a 1%.
Oh, so it was before taxes.
Yeah. So that was set up.
Okay.
Right. So in other words,
so you didn't have to worry about that.
No, because it was taken out already before I even had a chance to. So that was taken out, and that's how I did it with my paycheck. Just take it out, and I would check every.
You can do that also with the credit card companies. I mean, I think that if you consolidate your accounts, there is a program where they can take it out beforehand. So if they know that. Yeah,
talk about that.
Yeah, if you get paid, what they do is they go in and they get authorization to pay a set amount. So they take out a set amount from your check, and you can request it from your employer. And what they do is that when payroll comes in, when they're sorting out payroll, that payroll, they break it down. They take away from your state taxes, city taxes, your insurance, because if you have health insurance, they take it out pre-tax.
Right, exactly.
So, and then the other thing that I don't know if a lot of people are aware, but if you're working and you're commuting, there is a program where you can have set funds on the side. I think you can do it every 2 weeks, like when you get paid every 2 weeks or once a month. And what they do is they take it pre-tax, they take it out of your account to go for your transportation. So you have an allowance.
Isn't WageWorks or something like that does that in our job where they take the money out of my paycheck?
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you can set the amount that you want. So depending on how much you have to put towards commute, they will take it out. So basically, what you can do is go to your employer. Now, mind you,
if you have direct deposit, that's great.
If you are a 9-to-5 person that is trying to get into that threshold of becoming a business owner or entrepreneur, you're transitioning.
Right.
And you're trying to repair your credit, or you're trying to have your finances in order, then this is the way to go. You can go and have everything pre-taxed so that everything is taken out and you already have the money that's left over, and then
right, because you got your 401k, your wage, your MTA, and then all the other stuff I was talking is all after tax dollars. You could open up a Roth IRA, which are after tax dollars. So just in case if anybody was wondering, Michelle, what does this have to do with entrepreneurship? Well, if you're in debt, like I was in 2011, that's how I started, getting out of debt by opening up different savings account or the different jar system.
Smart. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about in future episodes, either next week or the week after, about starting a business for under $5,000. So we're going to talk about that pretty soon on either next show or the show after.
You can have now with the savings that you put on the side, you'll have $5,000 or $10,000 to work with, and then you can start your own business.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to set this up. Like Michelle said, if you have a 9 to 5, like I do, you could put it away, a percent. And like I said, if you can't do 5% or 10%, then do one. Do your main checking, 97%, then a charity for 1%, savings for 1%, and an investment account 1%. And before you know it, it'll grow in a couple of months.
So let me ask you this: in a situation where you said you had 4 credit cards at the time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So now that, let's say that you're paying off the smaller accounts, what did you do then? Did you then take the money that was left over from it and started paying out the bigger ones, or did you try to? The smaller one, because I had a $20,000 and a $15,000. So since it's a $5,000 difference, the $20,000 I made the exact amount of payments. Let's say it's $150. I can't remember. I made that. The smaller one might have been, let's say, like 95. I went 95 plus another 30, $40. Mm-hmm. So, usually after you pay, every month, your statement goes down. So it might be 95, 92, 90, but I still kept up with 100, let's say 115. Primarily you just worked on keep paying.
Once I paid the first 2 credit cards off, which is $15,000, $7,500 each, whatever, that percentage went up from 1 to 2%. So I was able to add a little bit more money. Then when I got it down, like from 35 to like 30, 25, then I lowered my percentage of 28% to maybe like 25%. And I took that 3% and opened up another account. So before you know it, I have 2% here, 3% there. And now pretty much I still have 4 accounts open, all automated. So in other words, even on the bills, because I have education debt. And there's a difference between education debt and consumer debt. This $50,000 was consumer debt caused by a family member. The education debt, this is something that I wanted to get into.
The education debt, you can get a deduction on it.
Yeah,
so you can claim it.
Make it
because it's a business. It's a business expense.
Exactly.
So if you can claim and you can show that it's a business expense, then you can claim that at the end of the year.
Right.
So that's the good debt.
Yeah, that's the good debt. Yeah.
Which will keep repeating itself in given time. Because you're implementing everything that you're doing. Like we were saying before about having an education, having the knowledge, and then implementing that with your experience. So it goes hand in hand, and now you're rewarding that. So the system that you just mentioned sounds pretty cool. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I've never really implemented it in that way.
Right.
But I guess you can have the jar system if you
have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
If you get it automated, I mean, if you have your own business, then maybe you could have, separate paychecks, but you have to have the willpower and discipline and be persistent and
you have to be focused. You
have to deposit those extra monies that you have.
You have to know what your end result is. Now, sometimes life throws you some curveballs. You get derailed a little bit because you get unexpected expenses. But that is the reason why you should put money on the side, save it, so that if you do have those unexpected expenses that are accrued, then you can have that money there.
You could withstand that debt or whatever, for car payment or by having it there. By having the extra money there, you have
the jar system.
Yeah, the jar system will help you, withstand a lot of
and I think that maybe
the
next time we can discuss how to take loans, like if you have a student loan or a mortgage or a car loan, and how to downsize the balance. And instead of paying it monthly and let's say like a mortgage is 30 years, 20, 30 years, or a car loan can go up to, I think, 5 years is the maximum.
Is it that much? Okay.
Yeah, student loan is, I think,
Forever.
But there's methods of being able to take that and decrease it and pay it at a shorter period of time. And there are a lot of people that have had.
I know with the mortgage, I've heard that if you make an extra payment,
you can do the same thing.
Right, an extra payment a year, you can knock, I heard 6, 10, 12 years off the mortgage. I mean, look it up, people. You could Google it. But I think if you make an extra payment on your mortgage a year, you can knock out, I think it's 7 or 8 years, something like that.
Yeah. You could do the same thing with a student loan. You could do the same thing with a car loan or a car note. It's just...
Yeah, just keep tabs on your finances.
Yeah, you just have to be
keep tabs on your
structured
finances.
on it and not let yourself get derailed by it, especially now in this given time where everything's so expensive and there's balances creep up on it. That's all I know. And, you have to always be on top of it. I'm one that, because of that, because I have small debt now as well, so I have small balances, and I'm always constantly checking my statements, making sure that everything is on the go, focusing on the other things that I have to put money towards.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
our expenses,
smart.
We've discussed it about the expenses that we have in the business. We have 2 businesses to run. Everything looks good on the outside, but on the inside, on the back end.
When you see the paperwork and you see the statements, you go, holy cow.
Don't have that extra cocktail.
Have that extra cocktail. Save that $10 if you go out for a drink with some friends.
Yeah, but you know what? That's just it. You have to be conscious. For me, I see it as, do I really want to go to that outing? No, I think not. I think I'm going to save that $30, $50, $100 for something else that's more important. And
you throw that towards the debt. That's what that's...
Put it towards the debt.
Or put it in your investment account to open up that business.
If you're going to invest in something, it has to be something that is going to give you something in return.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's good to pamper yourself every so often and spend, on, like I was mentioning before, handbags and shoes and stuff like that. But I'm also very conscious that I don't spend frequently. Mm-hmm. I take that money, and if I want to splurge, I'll splurge every once in a while. But I mainly take that money and put it towards back into my business.
Celebrate your small victories. Paying off a credit card.
Yeah, paying out your debt or investing back into your into your company, because that is going to be there and that will grow.
Yeah.
As to material things, you're not getting anything in return.
No, that's what Robert Kiyosaki would say: bad debt or doodads. Where he says, you buy a TV for $2,000 when you could have took that $2,000 and maybe use it on a down payment on your business or on a house or something.
Well, if you're going to take $2,000 instead of spending it on a TV, I would say spend it on equipment that is for the business, because that's an investment for your business to move forward.
Exactly.
So you have to pick on what your expenses would be and be wise about it.
Right. No, exactly. And it all comes with education. Read a couple of books. Maybe form a group of getting out of debt, crew. And,
listen, if it's good for AA and Weight Watchers and,
you can do it for yourselves and get it
for, and you know what? I'm sure that there are groups out there that support each other in regards to trying to help each other out of debt, which I think is a good idea. You should have a group or maybe someone that can relate to you and help you out.
Yeah,
and
support each other.
Encourage each other to do that.
Yeah, there's real estate clubs, business clubs, and for all types of business, have a get out of debt club. And, like Michelle said, you support each other, you talk ideas, maybe try to maybe make extra money. Is it working overtime or starting a business? People, only you know that. But by having support, and I'm against filing bankruptcy. And I was told
don't do that. If
you can help it, don't do it. That's the last resort. And at the time, Michelle, when I went into my debt, I owed $50,000. My salary in 2011 was $42,000. So I was in the hole by 8,000, and even more when you consider. I'm not going to name the bank, but this one bank in particular would not budge on letting me lower my interest rate. I think it was like 12.99. I just wanted, even if it went down to 10%, I would have been happy. And they would not budge until I had to. And at the time, that's the first time I had that major debt. Once I was able to balance transfer, once I was talking, and then I started talking to people about this. Because once I got this, I pretty much and listen, I'm not without fault on this debt, because there were some things like I could have done, like some due diligence on the business that they wanted to do. So it was a learning experience. It's
a learning experience.
It was, but as I'm saying, I took it as a learning experience, which made me realize that I needed to learn about finances. That's where the team.
Well, now you can say thank you to your sister for
pretty much
because that mess.
Yeah, because I had to learn how to read a financial statement. I had to learn accounting, and for everyone out there, Warren Buffett says it. Accounting is the language of business. You got to learn accounting, and you get a simple book. Another book I bought so was Accounting for Non-Accountants. Again, go to YouTube and learn how to read a financial statement. There's tons of videos out there on YouTube. Just put on the search box how to read a financial statement.
Which is really ironic, because you think that I should be a little bit more conscious of how I spend and how I
was forced to do it.
No, what's funny is that I have a background in it. I do billing and collections.
Yes, yes, he does. And we're going to make sure that on the next show, she writes down her expenses, because that's what I do since 2013. I started writing down my expenses. What I spend. If I spend $10 on lunch, I write it down. Like today, I spend $10.25 on lunch, and I wrote it down. I took a picture of it. This way I know what I spend.
I do keep track of how I spend my money and where I spend it. In fact, I had an incident just recently where the bank, someone went and spent, I don't know how this happened, but someone had my my debit card information and basically spent $26 on it. And I knew that was not right, because I now every day go check on my bank statement.
Yeah, I need to do that, but you have to do that.
And the payments that needed to be taken out of the account, I check on that too to make sure that everything is squared away. So I had two incidents that happened, and they weren't even my fault. It was one that was drafted from a company. It was done in error. Luckily, they were able to refund me everything. And the other one I just got the credit for was that...
You finally got that one?
Yeah, I had that credited back to my account. And I can tell, and I can even close my eyes and just from my thoughts, I can say, I spent this on this day, that on that day, because I have everything down to a T.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscious of what I do. I learned my mistake, and now I know not to do it again.
Yeah.
And that makes you more aware of what you're doing, what your finances, and then you also see where all of the expenses go.
Yeah.
And now you know that you have to buckle down and be very limited to what you're spending and how you spend it in the course of the day or during the time, a certain period of time.
Right. And before we go, again, the books that I recommend is T. Harv Ecker's Secret of the Millionaire Mind, especially the part where you see how he divides his money. I also recommend Accounting for Non-Accountants. Again, you can probably get these in Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Also, there's a video on YouTube. It's called Automating Finances. The guy's name is Ramit Sethi, RAMITSETHI. And he talks about automating your finances in less than 12 minutes. So I definitely recommend watching that video. It'll show you how he pretty much breaks it up. And unfortunately, I learned this before I saw this video. I learned it from Chief Our Record in 2011. So this is also a good video because he gives you a step-by-step on how to automate your finances.
And for the next time, I wish everybody a good evening. Do you have anything else to say?
No, that's it. I mean, thanks for listening, people. Leave us a review on iTunes.
So if there's anybody out there that knows about working their money, please write to us, reach out to us. We have Facebook, Work Your Money.
Or you can email us at WYM as in Mary, Group, Corp, CORP, @gmail.com.
Yes.
And we would love to interview you if you have a business or about to start one, and what are your ups and downs. I think that's it on my end, Michelle.
Okay, guys, until the next time, this is the Work Your Money podcast with Michelle Wong and
Willie Morales.
I bid you good night.
Good night.